where the Dallas Cowboys are number one in the hearts of just about everybody except a small contingent from Minnesota. And the story, I guess, going into the ball game is not can Dallas win. They're a big favorite, as you know. But is there a possibility of a Minnesota victory? And if so, how can they do it? Hawk, what do you think?
I think Bud Grant probably summed it up. He said if it was a 7-game series like the World Series, that possibly Dallas would win that one. But he said it's one game and anything can happen. And I believe with the character that team has, there is an outside possibility.
Normally handled by Fran Tarkenton. Would you say he's equal to the occasion?
I'd say that last week he called just about as good fine a game as you want to see under the conditions in Los Angeles. Against Detroit, he looked good.
Now, when Minnesota has the ball, they will be up against the dreaded flex here in Dallas. And the question will be, can Foreman run on it and can Bob Lee pass? But right now, they are introducing the players down on the field, and we'll take a look at him. Starting off, the Minnesota Vikings coming out, and there is Mick Tingelhoff playing in his 19th playoff game, and veterans would be the name of this game for sure. Right behind him will be Steve Riley from the University of Southern California. Florida A&M left guard Charles Goodrum, number 68. At right, number 62, that would be Ed White. Here comes Ron Yeri, number 73. Then 83, the tight end, Stu Voigt. The boys who'll handle the football, Ahmad Rashad, a wide receiver, number 28. Backed up by Sammy White, number 85. After Sammy White, we get into the running backs. Number 35, Robert Miller playing in place of Brent McClanahan, and number 44, and he will have to carry the ball 30 times today at least, Chuck Foreman. The quarterback is Bob Lee, a 9-year veteran out of the College of Pacific. So Bob Lee at the helm for the Minnesota Vikings as they try to pull off the upset. The Vikings coming in 9-5, having knocked off the Los Angeles Rams. And for the Vikes, they have 6 members on the Pro Bowl. However, they have been a team that has hurt itself with 18 turnovers. More remarkably, when you consider they did not have a turnover in the rain and slop in Los Angeles. The Dallas Cowboys forced 7 turnovers last week, and so we'll take a look at them. And at 62, the center, John Fitzgerald from Boston College. Number 73 at left tackle out of Oklahoma, retiring this year, Ralph Neely. Left guard, number 68 out of Virginia Union, Herb Scott. The right guard, number 64 from Penn State, Tom Rafferty. At right tackle, number 67 out of Stanford, Pat Donovan. The tight end, number 89 out of Michigan State, Billy Joe Dupree. Wide receiver, number 83 out of Hawaii, Golden Richards. Wide receiver, number 88 from Tulsa, Drew Pearson. The big man in Texas, 1 year ago today, he was leading Pittsburgh to a bowl victory, number 33, Tony Dorsett. The other running back out of Houston, Bob Newhouse, number 44. And at quarterback, 9 years from the United States Naval Academy, Roger Staubach. There is Tom Landry, one of the winningest coaches in all time. If he wins today, it would be his 13th playoff victory, and that would break a tie that exists right now with Don Shula. So the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings ready to crack heads in a few moments. We already know that Denver has defeated Oakland, and so we are a couple of ways from New Orleans. It'll either be Dallas and Denver or Minnesota. Hawk, any last-minute thoughts going into the ball game?
Well, of course. But I'm not going to give them to you until old Tommy Lloyd comes in here.
Tommy
can
Lloyd,
play it, too.
He's a graduate of SMU with a degree of music. He leads the Upper Dallas Jazz Band, and he has been playing the national anthem solo for 12 years here. So Tommy, front and center for our national anthem.
As Mr. Tommy Lloyd and his trumpet provide the musical background.
In seeing those balloons being released from the far end, and I'm sure you are well aware of the snow background with the Minnesota Vikings, how it was transported down here from Minnesota. We should point out the question was, were they going to be able to get any of the snow in the ballpark? We have not seen any. Reportedly, fans had brought suitcases full of snow into the stadium. That has not been substantiated. However, when one of the Dallas Cowboy men came out on the field, a fan threw a snowball at him. So there's some snow in here anyway. The captain's meeting, Jim Marshall, in his 19th playoff game, number 70, along with Mick Tingelhoff.
Captains of Dallas meet the captains of Minnesota.
Staubach, Pearson,
Good to see you.
Salty and company.
You'll call the coin in the air, please. Heads he calls. Heads it is. You want to receive? Just as you're standing, okay? Minnesota wins the toss and will receive. Boom. Good luck, gentlemen.
So the Minnesota Vikings won the toss. And now our officials, with our referee Pat Haggerty, the umpire Gordon Wells. Then you have Al Sabato, Dean Look, Tom Kelleher, Dick Dolak, Fred Silva, the alternate, along with Leo Miles. And the Vikings will receive.
I talked to Art McNally about that last night, about Fred Silva being the alternate official. He said, despite the controversial calls, he is still rates very high in our opinion. I think it's a nice gesture on their part.
Right you are, Alex, as we look at a close-up of Tony Dorsett 1 year ago in a bowl game, leading Pittsburgh to victory, and he ran for over 200 yards that day. And now, of course, in the big leagues, in the NFC Championship game, it'll be Tony Dorsett and the Cowboys. As we look now at the two men to receive, Manfred Moore, number 36, will be deep. Sammy White will be up short to his right, and to his left, Robert Miller. Three men in the middle of the block, Keller, along with Hamilton and Yeri. And we're waiting for Efren Herrera, the pride of Guadalajara. Efren, who has been the NFC All-Pro kicker, he led the conference with 93 points, and Herrera will kick it off. And in one moment, the NFC Championship game gets underway to find out who plays Denver in the Super Bowl. Belts it deep. That means Manfred Moore on his 7-yard line to the 20, to the 25, to the 30, to the 35. At the 38, Mike Hegman brought him down, making first contact. Right there with him was Bruce Huther. So we'll take a look at the Vikings offensively. Up front, Riley, Goodrum, Tingelhoff, White, and Yeri, the men who'll handle the football. Ahmad Rashad, Sammy White, and the tight end Stu Voigt. In the backfield, Bob Lee at the helm, Robert Miller and Chuck Foreman, the running backs.
First series will be critical to the Vikings. They can get 7 points on the board. Their chances are greatly enhanced, I'll tell you that.
First and 10 from the Viking 38-yard line. And it's Chuck Foreman with Bob Miller leading a pack, and he gets it to the 40-yard line. A pickup of 2, so it'll be 2nd and 8. Let's take a look at the Pokes now, the Cowboys defensively, with Jones, Pugh, White, and Martin. And by the way, number 75, Jethro Pugh, in his 21st playoff game. Henderson, Brunig, and Lewis, and the linebackers, Barnes, Kyle, and at safeties, Waters and Harris. On the sidelines, keeping his arm loose and ready, Roger Staubach. 2nd and 8 from the 40-yard line. White wide left, Rashad right, play action fake to Miller. Down the left side, broken up by Aaron Kyle. The pass was intended for Sammy White.
That time that Dallas was in that flex defense, if you remember what the 49ers did to him, they scored about 35 points on Dallas in just that way. Flex defense is very effective against the run, but not so effective against the pass, because you touch down your pass rush.
53-year-old Tom Landry, the only coach that Dallas ever had, and his overall record, 161 victories. There's Doug Dumler, who did a remarkable job of snapping the ball in the mud in Los Angeles. 3rd and 8 from the 40-yard line, slot left. White is inside Grimm. Foreman to Miller, who fumbled, and I think Dallas has recovered. Let's see.
Harvey Martin fell on it. Harvey Martin.
Robert Miller on what appeared to be an unsure handoff. Take another look.
Let's take a look at it and see where the ball comes loose. Handoff is made there. He just lost his poor exchange some way or another. I don't believe he ever had possession. There's Martin 79 coming down on it, and a big break, obviously, for Dallas.
It looked like it went just under the left arm of Robert Miller, and he didn't have control of it at all. So it is 1st and 10 on the Minnesota 39-yard line, and the Cowboys in a big spot right away. Drew Pearson is left. Jay Salty on a wing. Newhouse and Dorsett behind Staubach. Robert Newhouse. And he is hit by McNeil, and he carries McNeil to the 32-yard line. Dallas offensively, Neely, who is going to retire after this year, Scott Fitzgerald, Rafferty, and Donovan. Golden Richards, Drew Pearson, and the tight end, Billy Joe Dupre. In the backfield, Roger Staubach, along with Tony Dorsett and Robert Newhouse. 2nd and 3. In motion is Drew Pearson. One fake by Staubach. Deep down the left side is Golden Richards. Touchdown, Dallas.
All of a sudden, what about it, Ben? Reaching down in the bag. Faked a little quick screen that time. Golden Richards just took off. They overcommitted. Take a look at Golden Richards. Number 83. Look at him. Beat his legs there. Watches Bobby Bryant come up, try to force that quick screen. Gets behind him like a stand-up two-bagger, Ben.
A disastrous turn of event for Minnesota, and a big play for Roger Staubach and the Cowboys. A 32-yard scoring pass. Golden Richards all alone. Bobby Bryant, nothing to do but watch him fall in the end zone. Herrera trying to make it 7-0. No good. And so Efren Herrera shocks this crowd by failing the point after. He was 39 for 41 in the regular season, but he missed that one. And so in the early going, Dallas has drawn first blood, leading 6-0. In less than 2 minutes, Dallas leading Minnesota 6-0. Harvey Martin recovering a fumble by Robert Miller, and Staubach cashing in chips with 2 plays. A 32-yard touchdown pass to Golden Richards for 6. Efren Herrera missing the point after. We have 13:22 to go in the first quarter. The chairs aren't warm yet, if they heat up at all here in Texas today. And it's Manfred Moore to the 15, to the 20, to the 25, 30, 35, 40, 42. Herrera tried to bring him down and couldn't. Randy Hughes finally hit him at the 42-yard line. A big return by Manfred Moore.
Manfred Moore came over in a trade from San Francisco. Last week he was outstanding on punt returns for the Vikings. That's something you don't see happen to the Cowboys very often. Mike Ditka and his special teams doing a heck of a job this year. Look at Efren there. He's a pretty good athlete. He has made a lot of tackles on kickoff teams, unlike so many of the other kickers around.
The first tackle Herrera ever made on a kickoff for Dallas, he knocked the receiver unconscious. 1st and 10. Foreman barreling across the 45, out to the 47-yard line. And, of course, for Minnesota, they need to do something to pump up the spirits.
Chuck Foreman's not a bad way to start. What a week he had last week. Over 100 yards in that mud in Los Angeles. Played a great inspirational game last week.
Chuck Foreman and Robert Miller. There's Too Tall Jones. Too Tall at 6'9", 265. His mother is 5'5 and a half, which is a shocker. 2nd and 6 from the 47. Second man, Robert Miller. And he was Jethro Pugh tried to hook him, slowed him up, and down he went. Pugh trying to bring him down with one arm, but Robert Miller, pretty tough little hombre at 5'11", 204-pounder out of Kansas, playing for the injured Brent McClanahan. Remember that Walter Payton in 13 carries could get only 60 yards against this tough Dallas defense. So the challenge is out there for the Vikings. 3rd and 4 from almost a long 5. Lee looking left and throws it out of the county. What? Ahmad Rashad was over there, and Lee took a lick.
Threw that thing 9 feet over the receivers.
So the Minnesota Vikings won the toss. And that's about all so far. Looks concerned. From here, you would have to think she might be a Minnesota
Like
fan.
a blonde Barbara Streisand.
So on a 4th and 4, Neil Claybo will be punting from his own 35-yard line. Larry Brinson deep, and Butch Johnson will handle it. And
Look out.
Johnson is staggered but stays on his feet and finally goes down just short. It was Studwell who hit him first, and he finally brought it back up across the 20-yard line, as you saw. So we've got 11 minutes and 42 seconds to go in the first quarter. Dallas 6, Minnesota nothing. Benny Barnes, a 6-year man out of Stanford, injured on that last punt. And Barnes slowly coming off the field. And meanwhile on the sidelines, it's the Dallas Cowpoke against the Minnesota Vikings.
Get after it.
Meanwhile, Roger Staubach and company will put it in play, 1st and 10. The ball just shy of the 20-yard line. Dallas leading 6-0, 11:42 in the first quarter. Drew Pearson is wide right. Robert Newhouse grabbed by Fred McNeil at the 20, and he falls forward to the 22 because it was a high tackle. Benny Barnes being ministered to right now. Looks like he got a kick in the inside of the right knee.
I don't believe it's serious. He'll probably be back in the ball game. Mark Washington has been a starter on that side and was, in fact, for 2 or 3 years before Barnes moved him out of there. He can play very capably.
On that last play, Tony Dorsett getting up very slowly. 2nd and 8 from the Cowboy 22. Pearson is wide left, Golden Richards wide right. Dorsett, deep man out of the eye. Staubach on a draw to Dorsett. He runs by Matt Blair. Jeff Seaman brings him down, and Paul Krause goes over the top of his helmet as he is just short of the first down. I would figure he'll need a yard.
Dorsett is getting up kind of slow. Look at that.
He took a lick on the previous play. I'm surprised he went into the huddle hurting from the previous play. I'm surprised they gave him the ball that time.
He got an injury last week, came back in, and 2 plays later scored. A guy like that. Whoa.
Of course, Roger Staubach, the quarterback, played with a bad thumb, a bad bruise. In fact, Blackie Sheridan, talking about Staubach, said he sits down as often as the Statue of Liberty.
Roger play with anything. He's quite a competitor.
So he's
Very
expecting
intense today.
Dorsett to do the same. Pearson wide left. Butch Johnson wide right. Both backs go out, and so does Staubach. And he runs into Seaman, who brings him down just very close to the first down. It'll be a question as to where they spot it.
Pretty near, but not plumb.
Not quite. Evidently a pretty good job on the Minnesota secondary with all the receivers covered, and Roger tried to go for the first down, couldn't do it.
I think Roger might have had run in mind that time. He didn't take a very deep drop that time, Ben.
Manfred Moore goes back to the Viking 32-yard line, and Danny White will be kicking from the Dallas 15. 9:35 in the first quarter. It is 6-0 Dallas. And it'll bounce just above the 40. It'll go out of bounds at the 41-yard line. So Minnesota, for the second time, gets pretty good field position. It'll be the 3rd time they get their hands on the football, and the Cowboys cashed in their first set in 2 plays to lead 6-0.
Or cruel hoax. 60 Minutes, incognito at a health spa. Tonight only at 8:30, 7:30 Central and Mountain, 7 Pacific Time.
Minnesota will put it in play, 1st and 10. The ball just across the 41-yard line. Dallas leading 6-0. Robert Miller fumbled. Harvey Martin recovered. Roger Staubach, a 32-yard touchdown pass to Golden Richards. Bob Lee, play action fake, setting up and goes down the right side over the head of Sammy White. Mark Washington, in there for the injured Benny Barnes, was covering the receiver.
And had him covered all the way that time, too.
Sammy White and Bob Lee. Lee is quite a story. His dad was the news editor and bureau chief for the Associated Press. He used to go into locker rooms in San Francisco and get post-game quotes. With the biggest event in his life, when he was 10 years old, he had an infection of the frontal sinus and the bone around the eyeball. He had an operation that saved his life, and 22 years later, here he is in the championship game. 2nd and 10 from the 42. Chuck Foreman running into a crowd and brought down shy of the 45.
Jethro Pugh and Ed Jones, too tall. Last 2 games have been his strongest ever in his career. He's really coming on. Let's take a look at a wheel. Let's take a look at it. Chuck Foreman, number 44, with a handoff. Look at Ed Jones there, number 72, and what a grasp. Jamming it all up. Well, they drafted him number 1, and they thought he was going to be a world beater, and he was kind of slow. He's been a steady performer, but in the last 2 weeks, they tell me he's come on to be one of the really top defensive players in the game.
Big play, 3rd and 8. Rashad wide left, White in a slot inside Grimm to the right. Back staying in, now the release to Foreman, and he gets across midfield and picks up the first down. Cliff Harris met him head on as he went hurtling through the air.
Well, you
so
wonder why he doesn't have more injuries than he does, as reckless as he plays. What a reckless, abandoned player he is. Wobbly with a rollout, couldn't throw a safer pass than this. He needs to get a couple completions, settle him down a little bit. Watch this. The guy's legs are still running in the air.
Mark Washington upended him, and Cliff Harris hit him head on. So the Vikings have it 1st and 10 on the Cowboy 47. Rashad is left, White is right. Here goes Robert Miller behind a Charles Goodrum block, and he gets across the 45. Goody, number 68, was leading the pack. We mentioned veteran teams. Mick Tingelhoff and Jim Marshall for the Vikings in their 19th playoff game. Jethro Pugh, number 75 for Dallas, in his 21st playoff game. And on the sideline, Benny Barnes getting that right knee taped. Figures that Benny Barnes will be back a little bit later. 2nd and 7. And Foreman gets to the 40-yard line. So he still has 3 yards to go for the first down to keep the drive alive.
Avoid Charlie Waters on the tackle. Clemson University. Come on to be one of the top safety men in football. 3 interceptions last week in that game against the Bears.
That tied a record that goes back to 1944. So Charlie Waters, number 43, along with Cliff Harris.
Charlie just had a little baby girl about a week ago, I guess. 10 pounds.
3rd down and 3 from the 40. And it is Foreman. Who else? And he is across the 35 for the first down. Brought down by who else? Cliff Harris.
Mick Tingelhoff, a veteran of so many years. 16 of them, and Ed White. Watch their blocks this time. Good one by Yeri, too. Big gaping hole, as you see there. Cliff Harris finally nails it.
The Dallas bench, and in particular Robert Newhouse, keeping his hands warm. 1st and 10 from the 34. Lee looking down the right side, throws it through the hands of Sammy White, just over the fingertips of Mark Washington and out of bounds before Waters could get over.
Sammy White was shut out last week against the Rams. That's unusual for him. Heck of a receiver. Rookie of the year, as everybody knows, last year. 9 touchdown passes this year. He can hurt you deep.
The Vikings put the ball in play 1st and 10 on their own 42. They have now reached the Cowboy 34. 2nd and 10. Bud Grant surrounded by his men. 50-year-old. He has won over 107 regular games. 2nd and 10 from the Cowboy 34. White is inside Rashad in a slot right. Play action fake to Foreman. Lee down the right side. No good. Intended for Ahmad Rashad. Mark Washington was there, and apparently they're going after the corners.
And the coverage was there. Slips a little bit, I believe. Let's look at Rashad.
Incomplete. Washington was defending.
Yep, slipped on that turf. It's been raining all week here in Dallas, and until yesterday. That field could be a little bit wet from that.
So it is 3rd and 10 from the 34. Six to nothing Dallas. Efren Herrera missing the point after. And now the Vikings trying to keep a drive alive. They have Bob Grimm wide right with White in a slot. Rashad is wide left. Lee just over the hands of the intended receiver, Robert Miller, trying to angle it out of bounds. And he goes for the corner and gets it out. And it'll go out of bounds at the 11-yard line. That's where the Cowboys will put it in play. 1st and 10 from their own 11. The 23-yard punt with no return. 5:52 to go in the first quarter. 6-0 Dallas. The 1978 CBS Sports Spectacular presenting an exciting calendar of outstanding events. In January, the WBC World Light Heavyweight Championship between defending champion Miguel Cuello and Mate Parlov. The World Lightweight Championship, Roberto Duran against Esteban de Jesus, also coming up, so that'll be 1978 CBS Sports Spectacular, something to see. 1st and 10 from the 11. Tony Dorsett gets out across the 10-yard line before jumping over people to go down shy of the 15.
Herbert Scott, number 68 on the trap block here on Eller. Let's look at it. Eller, he got a good position on him that time. Closed it down pretty good, though. Last week, those Viking linebackers played just an exceptional game. They're going to have to do the same thing today if they're going to contain this high-powered Dallas offense.
So Dallas with a 2nd and 7, the ball on their own 14-yard line. Staubach flipping back to Newhouse. Robert Blair gets him, but he gets away, and then the rest of the Vikings close in on him. So Matt Blair had him behind the line of scrimmage, couldn't hold on to him, still was able to come back and gather him in. Tom Landry. Boy, what a story. The 6th all-time winning list. He came in with 161 overall victories during his reign. And as we mentioned, if he wins today, he'll have won 13 playoff games, breaking a tie with Don Shula. So Staubach leading 6-0 with a 3rd and 5. And they'll load up the shotgun, going to the slight spread. Staubach down the right side, intended for Dorsett. Matt Blair was right there with him. No chance.
Carl Eller put a little rush on that time, and Staubach threw it a little bit before he wanted to. Dorsett was coming wide open that time. Had plenty of field to run, too.
Danny White, who will be coming in to punt for Dallas, has averaged 39 yards a punt.
Let's watch it out of that shotgun from the way Rogers sees it. Look at Eller. Led the team in sacks this year with about 14. Boy, he's been a steady performer through the years, and a great individual, too, Ben.
Danny White will be kicking to Manfred Moore. White from his own 5-yard line. Under a rush by McNeil, but he got it away. Manfred Moore, a fair catch. Otherwise, Tom Henderson would have knocked him into Oklahoma. Henderson was right down there underneath it.
Got it on the right side of your picture there. You see the rush there. Almost got. How he got it out there, I don't know.
That's Fred McNeil, number 54, who just missed smothering it. This telecast presented by authority of the National Football League, intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Dallas Cowboys and the National Football League is prohibited. 1st and 10 from the Cowboy 48. Lee to Robert Miller, still on his feet across the 45. Underneath at the very bottom making the play was Tom Henderson.
Boy, the Cowgirls, they get a lot of mileage out of those cheerleaders, haven't they? Beautiful women, too.
By the way, Benny Barnes, number 31, is back in action after getting that right knee taped. So Mark Washington, who did a good job in his stead, comes out. Barnes is back in there. 2nd and 7. The ball just inside the 45. Foreman is gobbled up, and what a hit, a fumble, and Big Jones had racked him. The Cowboys seem to think that they have recovered, and now it is made official. What a hit by Jones.
Took the good, strong inside rush that time. Beat Ron Yeri, I suppose. Let me take a look at it and see. Behind the quarterback, let's take a look. Look at it. Oh, brother. Yes, sir. Robert Miller had to block on him that time. It wasn't Yeri beat at all. Just a good, solid inside rush that time. Gambled and gambled right.
Then it would be the 2nd fumble recovery by Harvey Martin, who recovered Robert Miller's fumble earlier, and now this one by Foreman. 1st and 10 Cowboys on their own 45. 6-0 Dallas. Robert Newhouse and McNeil straightens him up along with Seaman, and they bring him down at the 48-yard line. Remember, Minnesota had a penchant for turnovers, 18 during the regular year.
Fred McNeil, every game gets a little better, a little stronger. Well, they're a determined group. Don't count the Vikings out, Ben. If determination means anything, don't count them out.
There's a Viking and a Cowboy.
Peaceful enough right now.
2nd and 7 for the Cowboys on their own 48. Golden Richards wide left, Drew Pearson in motion. Play action fake to Dorsett, and Staubach releases to Robert Newhouse, and right there waiting is Matt Blair to take him down. However, they have moved the ball into Viking territory, and they need almost 3 yards for a first down. 6'9", too tall Jones, who made that savage hit on Chuck Foreman.
Too tall sitting down. Tell you what, when he is sitting down, he's so tall, it takes him 32 minutes to stand up, Ben.
He's 6'9", a lot of man, as Chuck Foreman can attest to. Bud Grant, who has seen the Viking ball club fumble and turn the ball over so often during the year, 2 costly fumbles so far today. 3rd and 2. And it'll be Dorsett. And it just depends as he runs into a gang. It did not appear from the first look that he got the first down.
These Vikings can get stubborn, damn it. They gave Peyton 275 yards in their game, and they only gave up 10 points. They give you a lot of yardage on the ground, but when it gets down there in nitpicking time, they get tough.
One thing about the Vikings, if they had really been discouraged, they'd never have made it this far.
Watch it again here. Newhouse, number 45. Saldy holding his block all right. The Vikings not allowing them the big play there. Let's see what they do on the 4th down.
4th down, Manfred Moore going deep, flanked by Bob Grimm on his right and Joe Blahak on his left, number 21. And Danny White will be punting. He's averaged 39.6 yards a punt. From his own 45, he tries to kick it out of bounds. Instead, it is snared on a fair catch by Manfred Moore on his own 11-yard line. And so the Vikings, for the first time, do not have good field position. That's the one thing they've had. That was a 35-yard punt. Say, we got a great night tonight. Be sure to watch for 60 Minutes at 8:30, 7:30 Central and Mountain, and its regular time, 7 o'clock Pacific. Then be in Mel's Diner when George Burns drops in to stir things up on Alice. And wrapping up tonight's entertainment, another great Carol Burnett show. Guest star Steve Lawrence.
George Burns is too old to stir up anything, Bill.
1st and 10 from the Minnesota 12. And Foreman wrapped up just as he got to the line of scrimmage. Randy White, among others, plugging it up.
Boy, he is the player that's coming on. Replacing Bob Lilly in there is big shoes to fill. But, brother, if there's a guy that can do it, he is. Gracious me. Randy White, out of Maryland. He's going to be a great football player. Not as big as Lilly, but every bit as quick, perhaps even stronger.
So they picked up 1 on that play. As we look at Ron Yeri trying to find out where Ed Jones is coming from. 2nd and 9, Sammy White in motion to the left. And Chuck Foreman gets across the 15 to the 17. Bob Brunig had a big shot and brought him down, number 53. Brunig has done a good job inheriting a great role played by Leroy Jordan.
Leroy played it for so long, so well, but it takes a while to play this Dallas defense, particularly in the middle. Brunig will get better and better. He's probably the weakest linebacker. That's not saying he's weak, though.
It'll be a 2nd and now 3rd and 5 from the 17-yard line. Sammy White goes left, Ahmad Rashad right, and the backs are split. We'll see if Lee passes now. Nope, it's Foreman trying to get around Jones, but that was such a big trip that he was caught from behind. And it was Brunig who got him again as he tried to go around too tall.
Ed Jones is playing like gangbusters. I'm telling you, he's... Watch him, man. He strings it out this time, playing off a block of Ron Yeri. Watch this now. Just exactly the way. He's controlled the area altogether. Just strings it out. Pursuit, he'll be running.
So the quarter ends, and Dallas, as they were with less than 2 into it, leading 6-0. Minnesota, as we start the 2nd quarter, unable to move the ball. And so on a 4th and 4, Neil Claiborne will have to punt it out from his own 5-yard line. Butch Johnson all alone on the Cowboy 40. And Butch comes to meet it head-on at midfield to the 45, and down he goes, Matt Blair, bringing him down immediately. So Butch Johnson, who, by the way, his real name is Michael. That ought to get some airing. And Butch Johnson brings the return back, and Dallas will take over a 4-yard return on a 32-yard punt. 6-0 Dallas. A Robert Miller fumble recovered by Harvey Martin. A 32-yard touchdown pass. Roger Staubach to Golden Richard. 1st and 10 from the 46 of Minnesota. Dorsett and Newhouse. Slot left. And in motion goes Newhouse. Pitch back to Dorsett. The first man to come up and slow him down was Nate Wright. He tried to jitterbug around Nate, and that took up too much time. Meanwhile, a difference of opinion down below. A problem of some kind down below. And there it is. A blanket, evidently, and inadvertently catching on fire.
The person.
And at first they told us a blanket. My goodness. It's a man in there.
Anything can happen in Texas. Woo!
We're afraid he's off. That's Drew Pearson in motion to the left. Staubach giving to Dorsett. He has Donovan putting a block on Nate Wright, but he couldn't do it. And Rafferty finally pushing Nate around a little, and Nate still able to slow him down and jam it up. Number 43 for Minnesota, Nate Wright, ruining that play for the Dallas Cowboys. Ball on the Minnesota 44-yard line. The Cowboys got an early score, and they're holding it.
Vikings should be a tired team, and that's what Bud Grant indicated at the press conference. They've had 4 different practice fields in the last 4 days. In the last 7 games of the season, they've been in 6 different seasons. They're a weary team. They're going to give you a performance.
Out of the shotgun goes Staubach. 3rd and 7. Roger cranking up and going down the right side off the hand of Nate Wright, and it was intended for Drew Pearson.
The same area they slipped a little while ago. Might be some wet turf down there somehow.
So Drew Pearson going off, as are the offensive line of the Cowboys, and the special teams come in for Minnesota. Now Manfred Moore and Bob Grimm go back along with Joe Blaha. And Danny White will be punting for the Cowboys. Just the start of the 2nd quarter, with Dallas leading Minnesota 6-0. Mark Washington and Aaron Kyle are the 2 men to get down. Look out. Danny White is running to the 35, 30, out of bounds, and it is 1st down Dallas, as Danny White runs for the 1st down out of punt formation.
That's something you don't expect to have happen in a championship game to the Minnesota Vikings
It is the first time it has happened this year.
And that's preconceived. They knew what they were doing that time. You see the convoy waiting for him. Danny White, backup quarterback to Roger Staubach, a punter, but he's an all-around athlete, a good athlete.
So Danny White runs the ball out of bounds inside the 30 to the 29-yard line of Minnesota. 1st and 10. Drew Pearson on a wing right, along with Jay Salty, so 2 tight ends in there as Pearson goes in motion. And it's Dorsett, big hole, and dragged down by Krause at the last moment, or he's away.
Boy, just like Tom Landry drew it up in the playbook. Tom Rafferty, 64. John Fitzgerald, 62. Opening big holes that time. Good block by Newhouse, as you see right there. There's the block by Rafferty. Give him just a piece of daylight before he's brought down by Paul Krause there. Take a look at it now again. That's picture book there. Riding Sutherland out there and cutting back against the grain. There's Rafferty's block there. There's the good tackle there, the saving tackle by Paul Krause.
1st and 10 from the 16-yard line of Minnesota. And here goes Robert Newhouse. Rafferty trying to lead the way for him, and he actually ran up Rafferty's back and then spun off to the left.
Newhouse having his best season, I guess, since his sophomore season.
Well, you might take a moment or 2 out from this ball game, and your prayers would certainly be appreciated for that poor soul being taken out. The gentleman who, one way or another, was on fire, as you saw.
How in the world could something like that happen, man?
And pray for his welfare. 2nd and 7 from the 13. is Dorsett, and he's across the 10. Up the middle, center John Fitzgerald tried to open up the hole for him. Ralph Neely, who will retire at the end of the year after 13 years as we look at Tom Landry. Neely has an old horseshoe nailed atop his locker, and although there will not be much of a ceremony, we understand that when he retires, the horseshoe will go down and he will give it to John Fitzgerald. The Dallas center, and another tradition is alive in Dallas. 3rd and 4 from the 10. Staubach going high down the middle, flag on the play. He had both Dorsett and Dupre down there, and it might be against Krause.
It will be against Krause. He hooked him and almost tackled him that time. He had his, just completely looked like he was trying to tackle him around the waist that time.
So the veteran, Paul Krause, 14 years. Guilty, and we can take a look at it.
Oh, Krause, who's tied England to now with 79 career interceptions. That time was beaten.
We have a holding defense.
Look at the time he has to throw there. Good passing lane right there. He didn't get to see it. Dupree is just so big and so physical. Last week he outmuscled a Bear receiver for a touchdown.
So it'll be 1st and goal from the 5. And the Cowboys leading 6-0. Scored early in the first quarter, and with 11:45 in the second quarter, try to do it again. Jay Saldy along with Dupre. Now 2 tight ends are in there. Pearson on a wing left. And it'll be Robert Newhouse. And Newhouse goes barreling across. And the Cowboys have done the one thing that Minnesota feared. They have gotten out in front, and it seems almost impossible that Minnesota can come back. With Rafferty and Donovan looking for a St. Patrick's Day parade, open up the hole.
From behind, we'll see the big blocks there. Pat Donovan and Rafferty. Probably the 2 best linemen on the Dallas team. Look at the determination of Newhouse. He wants in that colored grass there, brother.
So the key, of course, was that run by Danny White out of punt formation. Now Herrera trying to get it up and through, and does. And the Dallas Cowboys leading the Minnesota Vikings 13-0. We have 11 minutes and 41 seconds left to go in the second quarter here at Texas Stadium in Irving. Robert Newhouse catching his breath after a 5-yard plunge for a touchdown. The Dallas Cowboys leading 13-0. Efren Herrera will be kicking off. Manfred Moore is deep. The key play, Danny White running out of punt formation to pick up a first down inside the Minnesota 30. That kept the drive alive. And it'll be handled by Sammy White. And White still going to the 40, to the 45 before he is dragged down. Huther and Brown making the tackles. So Tom Landry has seen his Cowboys get out in front, 13-0. And on the message board, the Cowboys and Vikings and All-Americans wishing a very happy New Year to Senator Hubert Humphrey.
Vikings again with excellent field position. It's almost imperative they put something on the board now and get back in the ball game.
It was a fine return, 37 yards by Sammy White. 1st and 10 from the 48. White goes right, Ahmad Rashad left. Play action fake to Miller, who stays in to block. And Lee going high and deep for Sammy White. No good. A flag on the play. Charlie Waters and Benny Barnes evidently interfering with Sammy White inside the 10-yard line.
If there's any question as to how strong Bobby Lee's arm is, look at it right here. Not only did he throw it a long way, I think he was looking for somebody on the left side. He throws it up there so tremendously high. Look at it. He didn't come into the picture yet. Like he threw it from the top of the stadium, and you could clearly see the interference there on Waters.
Sammy White had to wait for the ball, and by that time they caught up to him and bumped him. That is the first penalty against Dallas. There has been only one penalty against the Vikes. So remember, the Dallas Cowboys had it 1st and goal from the 5 and punched it over. Now it's 1st and goal from the 8 for Minnesota. That's a 44-yard gain on that interference. White goes left, Rashad right. And Bob Lee trying to get the Vikings back in the game. Another fumble, but Foreman recovered it. and he just did get it back because Jethro Pugh just missed scooping it up.
No turnovers last week at all. We'll see the ball pop loose here, I believe. Before exchange from center, he almost lost it there. That's what the problem was. Lee never got control of it, trying to hand it to Foreman. Foreman
Bounced
very
right
alertly
by
picked it up.
Jethro Pugh up into Chuck's lap that time, or they turn it over again. That's a little late for that now. It is 2nd and goal from the 7. Foreman inside the 5. It's hard to believe they could not have a turnover in the rain and mud and then handle the ball so loosely here today unless there's some kind of a lack of concentration.
That's what it has to be, and a weary team will make mistakes like that. And they obviously are tired. Last week, of course, they ran so well to the left side off the blocks of Goodrum and Steve Riley. They're doing the same thing today. Who are you going to give it to but a guy? Look at the determination in Chuck Foreman. He's got to get both these legs wrapped up before he's going to stop on you.
3rd and goal from the 4. White and Rashad are left. Play action fake to Foreman. Lee under a rush by Randy White. Whoa. And White decks him at the 16-yard line. They lose 12 yards on the play.
It was play action fake that time, and I didn't quite understand what for. I don't believe anybody was fooled. Watch Bob Lee. I don't understand why Randy White just took a strong inside rush that time. Boy, he's an athlete, and he's going to get better and better and better.
By the way, the Cowboys led the conference with 53 sacks this year. So we'll have a field goal attempt by Fred Cox. They'll spot it at the 22. A 32-yard effort by Cox. It is good.
How about boy,
Fred Cox, who will retire at the end of the year and is the 2nd greatest scorer in history behind George Blanda, gets Minnesota on the board with 9:57 to the half. 13-3 Dallas. 4 plays, 38 yards, resulting in a 32-yard field goal by Fred Cox. The sack by Randy White took all the air out of a possible touchdown balloon. And now Fred Cox starts it and squirts one low on the ground. Picked up there by Larry Brinson. He's to the 30 and goes underneath Nate Allen at the 31-yard line in a pretty good slide. Say, friends, we're going to be televising the final rounds of the Grand Prix Masters from Madison Square Garden in New York. The field of 8 headed by Guillermo Vilas, Jimmy Connors, and Bjorn Borg. Field of 8 chosen based on a year-long point system that included 76 major tournaments throughout the world, including Wimbledon and the United States Open. Competing for a $100,000 first prize Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, Sunday at 4. Here comes Dorsett. And Fred McNeil hit him at the ankles. Flag on the play. McNeil, number 54, trying to stop Dorsett, and it'll be a holding call against Dallas. (13-3) in favor of the Cowboys.
Well, in these championship games, you just can't make mistakes. You think about that now, though. On the punt by Danny White,
We have holding number 64 offense.
a fumble sets up Dallas's first score, and then a fake punt sets up a second. You just can't afford any mistakes in these games.
There's a lot at stake as the ball is put on the Dallas 22. 1st and 20. That's Newhouse in motion. And there goes Dorsett. However, Fred McNeil as he fumbles, but Dallas recovers. Fred McNeil did a good job of taking the block by Fitzgerald and Rafferty. He was able to tie them up, and on the fumble, Minnesota unable to come up with it.
Jim Marshall, number 70, takes a strong inside rush. You see him there. They've got him. That's exactly what they wanted to do. They got Rafferty pulling right here. Dorsett, there's where you see he's a rookie. He went too far outside. The hole was there. And then he fumbled on in addition to that before it was recovered by John Fitzgerald.
2nd and 18 for the Cowboys, leading 13-3. Butch Johnson is wide left. Drew Pearson wide right, and Staubach's going to run. And they try to make a sandwich of him. McNeil was the first man to hit him.
But a Cowboy getting up pretty slow, too, then. That's Dorsett again.
Dorsett is limping on that play. There he goes.
They told him they're going to limp on the field, not off. Hey. Roger Staubach, probably the most effective thing he does. He only does it 3 or 4 times a game, but how many first downs has he picked up running with a football? That's that added dimension. And just think, it wasn't that many years ago they said the quarterback that runs the ball can't play very long.
Well, they load up the shotgun. 3rd and 13 from the 29. Preston Pearson staying in to block. Staubach with plenty of time, still looking. Jim Marshall can't get him. So now he unloads and completes it to Golden Richards, and they gang tackle him out of bounds. Jim Marshall had Staubach in the backfield, and Roger just did get away with checking the time to see how long he had, almost 4.5 seconds, and we'll add to that for a total of almost 10 seconds for Roger Staubach before he threw the ball. 10 seconds.
Yes, sir. And didn't find anybody open. Tony Hill was about 30 yards behind anybody, but Roger couldn't have got it there with a cannon. Virtually no pass rush. The Vikings have been in trouble with that all year. Outside of Eller, they really haven't had a first-rate pass rusher. Alan Page is going to have to come alive.
Well, Danny White figures to punt it this time, and he does. And it's Manfred Moore backtracking to his own 24. End of story.
Gracious.
Jay Saldy hit him first, number 87. And there's Saldy just now getting up. Who did he hit him?
He's been a valuable player to the Cowboy team, brother.
He's paid a price for it, however. You usually do when you come down there in abandon like that. Tony Dorsett, 4 yards a carry, limped off the field. He has had 3 pretty good shots so far in this game, but he just nodded as if to say, yes, I'm okay. Meanwhile, Jay Saldy, who made that tackle, is still down, number 87. We might take another look as Manfred Moore is trying to get out of the way. Saldy hit him on the left ankle, and then the rest of the Cowboys came in, so Saldy took the beating since he was the bottom man. By the way, we have a moment to tell you, and I'm sure you are concerned, the gentleman we saw literally in flames, and the flames were smothered, and he was taken out of the stadium. The preliminary report is he is at the hospital, he is coherent, he is not in too much pain. Evidently, he was dressed something like a snowman, and an unofficial report said a cigarette ash evidently set fire to his costume, so we pray for his safety.
Back to Jay Saldy. That might be a bigger injury than you'd know. He's very instrumental in some of the Dallas formations. They use him quite a bit when they use a double tight end situation, not just on short yardage plays. He's an offensive weapon for them.
Looked like his right knee that was banged up on it. 1st and 10 from the 23 for the Vikings. Chuck Foreman gets across the 25, but there's a flag on the play. Illegal motion going against Minnesota to jam up the work. This has been basically a penalty-free first half. However, suddenly now the flags are starting to drop.
Illegal motion, number 44, offense.
So Chuck Foreman in motion as we look at Jay Saldy in that right knee bothering him. So we'll see if 87 can get back into this one. So the Vikings have it on their own 18, 1st and 15. Fake to Robert Miller, and a pass to Foreman coming out of the backfield, gets across the 25 and is taken down there. So he still had plenty of yardage to go before a first down. Hitting him was D.D. Lewis.
Ben, I think I'm right in this. In the 3 games that Bob Lee has been quarterbacking the Vikings, I think he's only completed 2 passes to Chuck Foreman. He likes to go upfield with his wide receivers a whole lot more than, say, Fran Tarkenton would if he'd be in the game.
Yes, the second reception was by Foreman in the mud in Los Angeles prior to today. So it's 2nd and 6 in the 27. There goes Robert Miller with Foreman trying to block. Henderson hit him and slowed him up. And that's all the Cowboys needed, for somebody to slow up a runner. And Charlie Waters, along with Randy White, over to bring him down.
Miller, a pretty good-looking ball player, had seen very limited playing time this year until McClanahan had the knee surgery about a week or so ago. Runs with a great deal of authority. Look at this. Good amount of determination. I like him. good pass receiver, too. Probably better receiver than McClanahan.
So Bob Lee trying to move the Vikes. A third down situation on his own 29 as Tom Landry looks on. 3rd and 4. Foreman. And he needed a lot of effort to get that far because it appeared as if he was going to be stopped at the 30, and he fought his way out and get a first down. So mark that one in tribute to Chuck Foreman.
The great ball carriers, somehow, some way, they find a way. Chuck Foreman's one of those guys. He just rolls when he's hit, knows where the first down markers are. Watch him this time as he rolls off to the side there. He's a spinner, all right. Second effort got it.
Foreman, of course, 3 consecutive 1,000-yard years as we look at a bad right knee of Jay Salty. 1st and 10 Vikings. Lee looking right, telling his man to go deeper. His man is Sammy White, and he just went out of bounds in pursuit of the ball.
A good idea that time, that little sideline and go. Cliff Harris was there in the coverage, though. There's a guy that can really hurt you right there. The balls he does catch, he'll get some yardage out of them and a lot of touchdowns. 9 to be exact this year.
So Bob Lee. And, of course, all you have to do is look around here and realize it's Cowboy country. They refer to the defense now as Doomsday Junior. 2nd and 10 from the 34. 13-3 Cowboys. 5:08 to the half. Chuck Foreman going outside a Miller block, but it's banged up there as he got across the 35. He bobbled the ball, but evidently recovered it. D.D. Lewis thought he had it and threw it high in the air. D.D. Lewis came up with the football, and D.D. was double dangerous, but slung it out of here.
Watch D.D. Lewis play off the block. Last week he had an interception and a fumble recovery. He's been a good, steady performer for the Cowboys. You don't hear as much about him, but you see how he strung it out that time. The ball did come loose.
Harvey Martin holding on to his hips as the ball went flying, and Bud Grant wondering about the thing that has haunted Minnesota all year, turnovers, and they are sure playing fast and loose with the leather in this first half. 3rd and 7 from the 37. Lee under a rush, but gets it away and completes it to Ahmad Rashad, and Mark Washington takes him out of bounds as they pick up the first down at the 47-yard line.
Rashad, the leading receiver in the National Football Conference this year with 51 catches. Had 2 last week. Was the only wide receiver for the Vikings to make a reception last week. More of the short range, only averaging about 12 yards. He's got better speed than that. He's been their control receiver for the Vikings.
The first Minnesota fumble has been the most damaging, that by Robert Miller. And, of course, that really led to the first Dallas touchdown, so it's a little closer than that 13-3 score would indicate. Lee trying to pick up another if he can. Fakes once, slings it and completes it to the tight end, Stu Voigt. He's inside the 35-yard line of Dallas, brought down by Cliff Harris. But Stu Voigt, the tight end, making the reception.
You had to wonder how long it was going to be before he went to Stu Voigt. Bob Lee is going to get a lot of double coverage on Sammy White and Ahmad Rashad. They're going to double both sides. He's got to go to that middle area sometime. That time you saw him do it. Stu Voigt, a good dependable receiver, if nothing more.
So he got it to the Dallas 34-yard line. 1st and 10, Minnesota. They started on their own 23. Sammy White, wide left. Ahmad Rashad, wide right. Foreman, the deep man in the eye. Both backs go out, and Lee down the left side, a diving catch and a good catch by Sammy White. First down at the 19. Sammy White making a marvelous diving catch.
Sammy White with a big inside move that time. Watch him as he comes in toward the post and then back outside. There's a little inside move right there. He gets Kyle turned all the way around that time. Look at the reception here. And yes, he was in bounds. Tried. Look at it again. Bob Lee with excellent pass protection that time. Drifting in there, finding his passing lanes. See those hips hit? Perfectly legitimate reception.
1st and 10 from the Cowboy 19-yard line. Sammy White on the right side, and Lee faking to Foreman. Throwing it away. Sammy White covered by Barnes along with Charlie Waters. So he just threw it out of bounds. That stops it with 3:23 to the half. 2nd and 10 on the 19. And you look at Bob Lee's numbers.
How long his arms are, Ben. When he puts them down, they hang down about his knees.
Bob Lee, at one time played City College of San Francisco. Another member of that backfield was O.J. Simpson. He eventually went to the College of Pacific. So it is 2nd and 10 from the 19. Slot left, White inside Rashad. Bob Tucker is the tight end on the right side. And it's a draw to Foreman. And is that eaten up? Cliff Harris and Bob Brunig played that as if they had the Minnesota playbook behind the line of scrimmage.
I love to watch Cliff Harris play. He's just about as reckless as anybody you want to see. And so many times when they use that safety blitz, you see him on the left there coming in on the blitz. They'll blitz that middle linebacker too. Both of them got in on the action that time. They just guessed right that time.
So it's a 3rd down and a long 11 for Bob Lee and the Vikings. 2:50 to the half. 13-3 Dallas. Grimm is wide left with White in the slot. Rashad is wide right. Lee gets by, too tall, fumble. The ball is still loose. It was Too Tall Jones applying some pressure, and it would appear as if Charles Goodrum, number 68, fell on the ball for Minnesota at the 20-yard line, and they're still having trouble holding on to the football.
I can't help but believe that was a preconceived play. I think the quarterback draw was on that time. And Bob Lee, although he doesn't run very often, fully intended to run with that.
But he's been in the red. He carried 12 times for a -8 yards, so you didn't figure to see him run much. They will spot the ball at the 27-yard line for Fred Cox. So he's faced with a 37-yard field goal kick when we come back to it. Timeout on the field with 2 minutes left to go to the half. The Dallas Cowboys leading 13-3. Fred Cox got Minnesota on the scoreboard, kicking a 32-yard field goal, and just before the 2-minute warning, he was going to try another. So on a 4th and 11, Fred Cox will try his second. From the Dallas bench, Jay Saldy has a sprained knee, unsure if he'll return. Tony Dorsett, a bruised heel. He will be back. Down at the 37, Cox gets it up, and it's good. And Fred Cox, who at one stage of his career kicked a field goal in 31 consecutive games, has kicked 2 today, and it narrows it now to the Cowboys 13 and the Vikings 6. Fred Cox, a doctor of chiropractics, and he will go back to that career once he hangs up his spikes. Ah, you're a doll.
Charlie Waters doll. Boy, he's popular down here. They like it.
So you look at 2 things. The fumble by Miller, the recovery by Harvey Martin that led to the 32-yard touchdown pass to Golden Richards, and Danny White running out of punt formation for a first down inside the Minnesota 30. Those are the 2 big plays that define the difference, 13-6.
No, Fred Cox hadn't been having that good a year kicking the ball, but if it comes down to a field goal in the closing minutes, I know of no one I'd rather have kick it than Fred Cox.
Cox was 8 for 17 during the regular year. And he has inspired Minnesota that they are anything but out of the game. They spotted the Cowboys the touchdowns, but he has kept them in it. 13-6 and Fred kicking off. And again, a knuckleball down the left side. And once more, picked up by Larry Brinson. And Brinson can't get underway as he goes smothered to the ground at the 25-yard line. So the Cowboys will put it in play. Say a reminder, Challenge of the Sexes returns Sunday, January 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Exciting man versus woman. And January 8th show, you'll see tennis, Virginia Wade versus Peter Scarolitis. Water ski trick jump, Pam Folsom versus Rusty Stifler. And a motorcycle jump-off, Debbie Lawler and Rex Blackwell. I know Phyllis just as delighted I am that the show is back on. Along with the NBA on